Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order. I'm going to ask Pastor Kyle to open us in prayer, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here and joining us for this important congregation meeting. We're glad you're here to learn more and find out about all of the work that has gone into this parking lot project by lots of different people, and so thank you for being here. Before we dive into that, let's begin with a word of prayer. Let's pray. Lord God, Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this day and for the blessings that you give to us each and every day of life. Thank you, Lord, for your church. You have placed us here at St. Paul in Sheboygan Falls, and you continue to work through us to share that good news of your grace and your mercy and your love through Jesus Christ, through the many ministries that we've been blessed to have here. Lord, as we make some important decisions here this evening, we ask that you would bless our conversation, that this information would go to the congregation, that they would consider it and that they would make decisions that are guided by your will for our church. Lord, just bless our conversation. May it be edifying and bring glory to you in all that we say and do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Before we get into the parking lot, we have a secretary's report, which is the second page in your packet tonight. Can you hear me now? Could be my voice. Is that better? A little bit better? Okay. Before we get the parking lot conversation, we do have a secretary's report that is on the second page of the packet you have. You take a look at that. We'd be looking for a motion to approve. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Do we have a second here in front? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, for the parking lot conversation, I'm going to turn it over to Chad. Got a microphone?
All right, good evening, everybody. So I just kind of wanted a little recap of how we got here, why we're here for the second meeting about the parking lot. Basically, we started phase one. As you can see, we tore it all out, got everything graded, and at that point we discovered that those two sections over there, we had poor base underneath the parking lot. So basically what that meant was it was not good enough to pave on. Northeast Asphalt had contacted us and said, hey, this is a problem. Basically what was going to happen is we would have shortened lifespan of the parking lot without doing anything. So they contacted us and said, hey, we got to do something about it. We said, what's the next step? They got a hold of Wagner Excavating and said, we need a bid to basically dig out 12 inches of that base that's out there and then bring in new gravel, compact it so it would be a good base, a strong enough base to pave on top of. At that point, Wagner Excavating put a bid together, submitted it to us, and it was at that point. So those two yellow sections were the bad sections that were exposed and open, and then the orange sections are the other three that are done currently. What we did with those is we just assumed if we have bad base in 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5 is going to be similar to that. So when they put the bid together, they put it together for all of those sections, is what we looked at, and that was the number they got back to us on. Is there any questions on that? Does everybody understand? Yes?
For some reason, 3, 4, and 5, one of them is not bad. The bid will be adjusted, I take it?
Correct, yeah. So we did also, because those are unexcavated, we dug some test holes in the islands to see if it was similar to what the other two that were open were. And so we found a very similar composition of what we found in 1 and 2 that were open in 3 and 4. And so that's why we kind of just assumed, 1, 2 is bad, 3, 4 for sure are bad, and 5 is on the fence. But if there would be okay, then obviously it would be adjusted accordingly if we didn't find a problem in those areas. So anyways, Any other questions up to this point? Yes, sir.
We got 27 years out of the current parking lot, is that correct? Yes.
Yeah, from when it was paved originally with the building of the building.
And you may get into this a little further, are we expecting a longer life than 27 years once we finish this project?
So probably, most likely, the expectancy on the asphalt is a 20-year lifespan. That was directly from Eric at Northeast. He said generally when you have good sub-base, base underneath, the parking lots will last 20 years. With our parking lot, as you know, obviously we, at these meetings, every once in a while we'll hear, hey, we're having holes, or we need to fix this area, and that type of stuff. And we've been maintaining our parking lots more and more and more each year. In the last probably good 10 years, we've been maintaining it more and more, patching holes, like out in front of the garage there, we patched a hole, and we've been doing that more. So a lot of times what will happen is, yes, you get 20 years out of it. If you have a problem like with the base, we'll start experiencing issues before that 20-year lifespan is up. So while the project, or the asphalt lasted 27 years, the parking lot may have been really at the end of its life prior to this by a good 5 to 10 years probably, and we've band-aided it up until this point, when it could have probably used a replacement before tonight, or this year, is kind of what we've done. So, yes, sir.
I understand that the company that's doing it now put in the original one. Apparently they didn't do it right back then.
I'm not sure what happened. Was it a different company? It was a different company that originally paved our lot for the main church parking lot. Okay. Well, it was different. It was a different company that paved originally when the building was built. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
The yellow sections there, are they going all the way to the main drive coming in, or?
Are you talking the center driveway or the outside toward the cemetery?
The drive.
In orange? Okay.
The yellow lines don't go all the way to that drive, is that where they're going to be?
So those areas that aren't in yellow toward the building are still good. So we didn't have to excavate those. It's where the yellow starts and out is where the excavation would be happening. Any other questions at this point? Yes, sir. Yep. So the question was, it looks like we have a drainage issue as well, as the base issue. So is it one or the other? Is it both? And in a couple slides, we're going to address that as well. But at this point, we just had simply looked at the base. It was not good to pave on, is where we're at now. And so in a slide or two, I'll get to the drainage portion of it. Any other questions? All right. So we received a bid from Wagner. So these are some of the pictures, and as you guys can drive in, obviously you can see the ruts out there, and obviously now since we've had some rain, there's water sitting, but it is excavated out, so that's why there's extra water sitting in there. But basically those ruts are what the main concern was. The paving equipment is going to create those same ruts underneath the paver, and that's why the base is not good. So we received that proposal. And that was the proposal for all 5 sections to remove. So at that point, council was in on an email with the bid, and we were like, whoa, that's a lot of additional to the project. That would be on top of what was approved. So at that point, we asked as the council, we said, are there other options? So at that point, we contacted Northeast and Wagner and said, are there other options? So we went back to the drawing board. Again, we met with both of them. Craig from Wagner Excavating is here with us tonight, along with Eric from Northeast Asphalt. We met with Craig. He came up with another option, so we didn't have to excavate it, didn't have to spend all that $171,000. And then at that point as well, Craig mentioned about drainage. So we were looking at that as well at that point. Craig said, I need to do a survey. I need to figure out elevations on the building. So we had to do a survey of the property, and then we had to do civil engineering to see, okay, do we have the correct drainage? Do we have all those correct figures? Because if we don't have that, we're going to have trouble with our asphalt breaking down and failing before that 20-year mark. So that's kind of where we were at with that. So at that point, Craig did some homework, and he did a survey, like I said, and he did the civil engineering to kind of figure out drainage-wise, what's the place at, what are we looking at for elevations and pitches to make sure the water is going. Because another thing that can be happening with the way it was out there was those center islands. The water will go off the parking lot and hit those islands, and then it stops and goes underneath, and then obviously in our freeze-thaw cycle, premature failure can happen there because we have that water essentially not going off the parking lot, but hitting those islands and going down instead of off the parking lot. So Craig did all of that, and then now I'm going to turn it over to Craig, and he's going to talk about the soil stabilization is the other option he had, and then he'll also address the drainage. Do you have any other questions before Craig is going to speak? All right, Craig.
Thank you, Chad. Good evening. My name is Craig Rush. I work for Wagner Excavating. I'm a professional civil engineer and also a professional land surveyor, and also a church member. So I definitely have my best interest here. So asphalt pavement. A typical asphalt pavement in Wisconsin for a parking lot, your life expectancy is about 20 to 25 years. But it's only 20 to 25 years if you have a good subgrade and good pavement drainage. You need those two items for sure. So let's talk about the first one, good subgrade, which is part of soil stabilization. So right now, your existing parking lot, you can see you have poor subgrade. You saw the pictures, you have ruts. Why is it a poor subgrade? Most likely because you only have 5 inches of gravel. Typically you have 8 to 12 inches of gravel. You only have 5. And underneath that gravel, you have, in certain areas, you have poor soil. And that soil consists of a silty clay, a mixture of topsoil and dark clay. How do we get rid of that? There's a couple things we can do to get rid of it. One is to over-excavate all the poor material, haul it off, haul in good material, and then put in 12 inches of gravel. That was that number you saw before. Another option is to excavate 8 inches down, put down a plastic geogrid, and then put 8 inches back down on top of the geogrid. Now these two options, they're good, they work, but it comes with a price tag. They're a little pricey. So I came up with another option, which we use is a it's a liquid enzyme soil stabilization. So what is that? So what we do is we take the 7 inches of the existing soil, the gravel, the clay, whatever's there, that 7 inches of that soil, we mix really well with lime and also with the liquid enzyme. And the liquid enzyme is totally safe. So you mix that product real well, and then you compact it. You let that cure for a minimum of 3 days, and then you can pave on top of that. How that works is that enzyme, what it does is it reacts with the clay molecules and the lime molecules, and it bonds really hard, almost like concrete. When you walked in at the registration table, I had 2 samples out there. If you didn't get a chance to look at those, take a look at them when you leave. But those are just samples of what happens when you add that lime, the enzyme, and clay to gravel. That's the final product. It turns hard. So that takes care of a good subgrade. Next thing we need to look at is the drainage, to get proper drainage. And what I mean by that is to get a good surface drainage. Now again, your existing parking lot is pretty flat. And you can tell that because you have ponding water. And what happens is that water finds a crack and it gets into and under the asphalt. That water will get under the asphalt. And then you have a freeze cycle. The water turns to ice, expands, and it pushes up on the asphalt. So now you're causing more cracks in your asphalt surface. So now with more cracks, more water can get into your asphalt, and that cycle keeps happening and happening, and eventually you have complete pavement failure, which we want to avoid. So again, important to get good surface drainage. Okay, so what I did is I did a topographic survey of the site, because I wanted to know what the grades are of the existing parking lot. How flat is it? So what I found is the existing parking lot has a grade of 1% or less. Now, engineering and a design standard for asphalt pavement is 1% grade or better. So you have a 1%, you need it 1% or more. That's what you're looking for when you're designing asphalt. And the existing pavement is 1% and less. That's why we have standing water. So I came up, after I find out that we have basically 1% and less, I came up with a grading plan, and I implemented the 1% grade and more in this grading plan. So you can see in the North Bay, that's closest to County Trunk Highway PP, that actually drains to the ditch along County Trunk Highway PP. Then the remainder of the pavement drains in the southeast direction. The proposed grades and the existing grades, the drainage pattern for proposed and existing, drain in the same direction to the southeast. But the difference here is that I'm using the 1% or better for grades to get that water off the pavement. And the other difference is, as Chad mentioned, the islands are going to be grass, and the water will flow through the islands. So we don't have any obstruction of the water stopping at the islands and soaking under the pavement. It flows through the island. So the grass islands are going to be the same elevation as the asphalt, so that water can flow through. Now, we've had water in the garage in the past. Yes? Oh, I'm sorry. Is that better? Okay, apologize. Thank you. So in the past, we've had water in the garage. So what I propose is to do a gentle swale around the garage so that intercepts the water coming from the northwest. Then that water is diverted to the south in a proposed ditch along the south edge of the pavement. So there's, in the green space there's a proposed ditch. So that water goes in there, and then that's routed through a proposed pipe that drains to the ditch along State Highway 28. Another ditch we're proposing is between the existing sidewalk on the east side and the east pavement. There, that water will be directed in the ditch and then to the south. So there's going to be a lot of things happening during the construction of that. We will need the whole area because you're going to be digging. Yes?
Could you just go back about the second drainage line that you wanted to do?
On the east side? Yeah, that's just going to be a ditch cut in the existing ground. It won't be a deep ditch, it'll be mobile. But that's going to be between the sidewalk and the edge of pavement, because right now what's happening is that water is getting trapped between the sidewalk and the pavement. We want to get that water out. So that ditch is going to help get that water out. It'll still be usable for snow plowing. You know, we'll be able to still push the snow in that direction. And also, we left that asphalt lane there for snow plowing also. So anyways, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening in that area. So there will not be any parking during the construction of the parking lot because there's going to be some cutting in the low area near the garage and some filling in the north area. So the only parking is going to be around the church, which would be on the north, the west, and the south side of the church. And this is for the duration of the construction, which we're hoping for about a 2-week period, depending on weather. It's all weather dependent. I've been informed, though, that the church doors on the sides would be opened for worship service and usable. So again, important for drainage is to get that water off the pavement, and once it's off the pavement, get it away from the pavement. I guess in summary, I'd like to say that 2 things to keep in mind that's important for a good performing asphalt pavement and good life of a pavement. You need good subgrade and you need good surface drainage. Thank you. Yes?
If the grass level is the same level as
Say that again, I'm sorry.
If the grass level and blacktop number are the same, what is going to prohibit people from driving through the grass?
I guess there isn't any at that point. Yes, I'm sorry. He had asked with the grass medians, what's going to prevent people from driving through the grass medians, the islands? And I don't have an answer for that. The area is going to be striped, but to prevent someone to go through the island, I'm not sure what you would do unless you put signs or a fence or something. Yes.
Greg, we do have one island that is level with the parking lot, and being one of the people that's out there knowing that we've never had any big problems with people driving through that. I mean, there's always somebody that's going to try it. We haven't seen that as a big problem.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any other questions for me? Yes.
I have multiple ones. But if the water drainage, you don't want any water under the blacktop, why are you proposing to keep the grass medians in the middle? Why are you not saying, why should we pave over that so we don't have the water coming and seeping through the grass underneath the pavement?
Right. No, that's a good question. Once you have your grass surface in there, it's more dense with the roots and the grass. So you will definitely get some filtration through the grass, but not as much as like if you have a mulch island and the water stops, then it likes to stay there and then soak between the edge of the pavement. With the grass, the water should sheet flow across the grass, especially for the heavy rains. Now, will there be some infiltration? Yes, but not as much as what's expected if it was like raw dirt or a mulch bed or something like that, where it holds the water more.
Since the pavement hasn't started there, we still have to do a lot of excavating. Can we not taper the pavement from the church, from the west side of the parking lot closest to the church towards the east, and drop it down a percentage?
In reality, the church is basically too low. They could have been built about 1.5 feet higher, because I'm starting at the church, at the finished floor, at the existing concrete, and I'm working my 1% grade from there. So there isn't a lot of room to be adjusting grades.
And if you would just taper it down more towards the east, just a little, as they're grading it out.
Yep, I get to what you're saying, and actually that's what's happening. It's going to the east and it's going to the south. So when you look at the contour lines, it's pointing in the southeast direction. So you have drainage in both directions, to the east and the south.
One question.
Okay?
We walk on the path that's just on the other side of the church, the pedestrian path, that's always underwater. And if you're going to put a drainage ditch from the south side here, going that way to the ditch, that always freezes up, so that's not going to drain in winter. Isn't that going to even flood that path even more, plus back up onto the property, on the parking lot even more?
Are you referring to the walking path along the cemetery? Okay. We're not actually going to be doing any work in that ditch, except for the one you might be referring to is...
Drainage pipe that you're talking about, because that thing freezes up, so it doesn't drain.
Right. Okay. The ditch where the drainage pipe is, that will drain it out. But if it's freezing on the other end, near State Highway 28, if that's a concern, I know we have a 6-inch tile that's running over there from our downspouts. And then also this would be draining in the same direction. That area is actually pretty flat along 28. It does flow out eventually, but there's icing problems there. I would be more concerned with the 6-inch tile that's there already, backing up and freezing, than the 12-inch. The 12-inch is proposed, and that's why I proposed the 12-inch. It's a bigger pipe, and that allows for more freezing. So in case it would freeze completely tight, which is unlikely, we also have the ditch on the south of the pavement that would allow some capacity of water before it goes onto the pavement. Yes?
Isn't there a ditch or a pipe that goes under PP out here to the river?
Yes, there's two pipes. So the pipe closest to our property corner, that's actually draining into our property. Then from there, the water drains to the east, it drains to the east to another pipe that crosses the highway and drains south. Yes.
What type of maintenance program would you recommend for the new pavement? Is that something that should be looked at every year or every 5 years? If there's some cracks, is there something that should be a program put in place to address that?
Yeah, definitely there should be something put in place because, asphalt's a good investment. You need to protect it. We said you get 20, 25 years out of it, but that's also with good maintenance too. I would start looking definitely at 5 years, have somebody in charge of that. Any cracks, you do a crack filling. And then look at it every year after that. If there's any cracks, you crack fill it. That prevents that water from entering your pavement and starting the process of deteriorating your pavement. Yes?
Yeah, you might find out that what we're putting down now is thicker than what was there. So there's also the possibility if you need to repair some areas, you could partially grind it out and replace it or build it back up again. That's not possible with what we had before. That was thinner.
Yes, that's correct, and I think Chad's going to get to that in a little bit, so I'll leave him handle that question. But just for thicknesses, my understanding is we have 3 inches now, and we're proposing 4 inches of pavement. But Chad will cover that in a little bit. Thank you. Any other questions for me? Yes.
I'm still a little concerned about that north ditch. Have you shot elevation from there, from the base of that to your first finger?
Yes, actually I did. I shot all those grades too, and we know that ditch is flat. And the only option I could come up with is installing another pipe crossing County Trunk Highway PP to drain that. But again, that would be just for that ditch. And for that cost, I felt that it wasn't even worth presenting.
You looked at possibly widening the Smedley and graduate it to the east. And looking at maybe a multiple pipe culvert underneath the entrance there, something like that, just to show. Like I'm still concerned we're going to be pushing water and all this snow and plow trucks.
Yeah.
Right against that first finger.
Yeah, it is a concern with that ditch in the front. There's really... Oh, yes, sorry, I apologize. The concern is that front ditch, that it's flat, and holding water, the one along County Trunk Highway PPP. The ditch is flat, and what are our options to get that water out of that ditch? It doesn't drain very well. And I had mentioned the only option I could come up with, because I did look at those grades and the culvert crossings and all that, and the option I came up with was to install a larger pipe that would cross County Trunk Highway PP. That's an option, but it's an expense, and at this point we were just looking at the pavement, so I didn't decide to bring that one up, because it doesn't really pertain to the pavement project at this point.
I guess the only other question I have is with these fingers and the grass that's proposed, do you have any concerns with the enzyme process? I'm not really familiar with that. We have seen erosion where the gentleman had mentioned people driving through, but not even necessarily driving through, driving up to the edge of that pavement. Do you have concerns about it holding water and seeing pavement erosion right at the grass area?
Right. The stabilized well, the question again is concern near the islands with the pavement and people getting close to the edge of the pavement and the grass island. Is that correct? What's going to happen? And with the stabilization of the subgrade, that will be even beyond the edge of pavement. So that will be protected from any car loads. It should not cause any issues there. Again, if you don't have proper drainage though, and you get water through a crack in your pavement, and then it gets between the stabilized soil and the pavement, your pavement still can fail. So that's why I stress drainage is very important. Besides just subgrade improvement, the drainage of the asphalt is very important also.
I guess more to the point, did you ever consider tiling those areas out into your drainage?
Yes, I did. I looked at that too. The question is, have I looked at tiling areas like in the islands or under the pavement or in the front ditch? And again, the grades are so shallow, you would not get enough cover over your tile. And the plan I came up with, we don't need a tile because we got 1% or greater. Now, if you're dealing with areas where you can't get 1%, you might want to start consider tiling that out. But in the plan that I prepared, we can avoid the tiles, which saves money, and all we have to do is install that 1 12-inch pipe. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right, I think I'll turn it, oh, I'm sorry.
Is there room out there for a retention pond?
Yeah, you have a big field to the south, so that could be a detention pond, yes.
Could even go with one parking area up, move it somewhere south or something.
Correct. Again, that comes with a cost, but yes, there is room for a detention basin. Yeah. But still, if you're going to do the drainage, the pipe would basically be the difference of the detention basin. So the pipe cost to install a 12-inch pipe versus installing a detention basin, it's cheaper to put the 12-inch pipe in. Yes?
The third option that you mentioned with the lime and the enzyme, is there a different cost estimate using that option?
Yes, roughly it's a third of the cost of the other two options. Did everyone hear the question? That the question was, what's the cost difference between using an enzyme soil stabilizer versus over-excavating or using a geogrid? And it's about a third of the cost. It's a lot cheaper. And the reason being is you're not trucking material out. You're not hauling the poor soils out. You're not hauling in new gravel. So trucking now is very expensive.
I think that answer is coming up on Chad's next slide, too.
Okay, yes, so we'll just pass along then. Oh, okay. We have a question about the light pole, and let me address that also. Thank you. In that, 1, 2, 3, in the fourth island that's closest to the garage, that area there we're going to actually be cutting a little deeper again because we're getting our 1% slope. That area is going to be deeper, and also we're proposing that swale, a gentle swale around the garage to avoid water going into the garage. Well, that area is going to be deeper, so that light pole that's in the island is not going to have much cover on anymore, because usually they do a sonotube that's about 3 feet deep or so. Well, by the time we start digging the soil around it, you're not going to have 3-foot cover on that light pole. So what we had proposed is basically removing that light pole and using the lights on the garage for that area. So the electrical line from the first light pole to over here, that electrical line would be removed and the light pole would be removed on the end closest to the garage. Okay?
All right, so moving along, basically at this point, Craig got all that information back to us. We as the council met with Craig and with Eric Northeast. We went over all of those, things that he just explained. And then we met and kind of talked about, how we wanted to move forward, rescheduling the meeting you're here for tonight, and going through there. So our first concern, can everybody hear me good? Our first concern is that we didn't want to kick this problem down the road with the poor drainage, because what will happen is we'll get failure again, probably before that 20-year mark, without the drainage, and then we're going to be right back into redoing this parking lot again. So our concern from a council perspective was we did not want to pass that burden on to the next round of people when it comes to that point again for parking lot repair or replacement. So that was our first thing we didn't want to do. Again, we're going to get with good drainage, fixing it, the good sub base, once we mix in that enzyme, we're going to get 20 plus years of life out of this parking lot again. So again, our parking lot probably, that's out here now, probably failed before that 20-year mark. We band-aided it up until the 27-year mark we're at now in order to be replacing it now. The other benefit is we have currently, what they put down already is a 4-inch layer of asphalt. We currently have 3. The benefit of that is that 4 inch is going to allow us, if we do start having trouble areas, we can mill off the top 2 inches and repave over the top of that again to get a longer life out of the entire substrate of pavement going down. So that's a big thing. Right now, we have 3 inches. If we mill off 1.5 inches, that's really not enough to do anything with because of that layer that would be left is so thin. The equipment to repave would just bust it up and we couldn't do that. So having that additional inch is going to help extend the life of the parking lot again and allow us to have a lower maintenance cost if we do find a section that would have a problem. We could mill it out, we could repave it, and not have to go all the way down to the base material again. And then again, it's because of that drainage fix, we're going to have better drainage, so we're going to have less puddles and less icing problems on the parking lot because we're going to get that water to flow off of the parking lot versus kind of flow to a spot and then sit and then create ice, you know, and then we have that problem again. So that was kind of the way we looked at it as a council. We wanted to, you know, address all those issues. And the other thing is, you know, prices aren't getting any cheaper. So if we were to kick a problem like this down the road, it's only going to make this project, when it does come time for replacement, even more, and we're going to, you know, incur more costs when it would come time for replacement. And even talking with Eric, when we did sign the contract for this initial project we're in now, the cost has went up substantially already if we wouldn't have signed. So, you know, yes, we're going to be spending a little more money, we hope, right now. However, it's going to be cheaper in the long run because this project could turn into double what it was, you know, when it comes time to next if we don't fix this problem now. So we're trying to, you know, use the money the church has as wisely as possible. And the last thing we want to do is burden the next council with that problem when it comes time for parking lot repair replacement. So with that, this is what we're looking at numbers-wise. So for the soil stabilization, we're looking at $60,000. And they're mixing in that enzyme, that's that whole process. Without, you know, the first option with hauling it all out and hauling it, and then good gravel back in was that 171 number you saw earlier. So the soil stabilization is costing us $60,000. Then the grading, drainage, and piping, which Craig explained, that's going to be $60,500 to get the drainage correct. So again, we didn't want to pass that problem down. And since we're at this point where we have the lot, the two sections open, and then we're going to have to open up the rest, you know, for the remainder of the parking lot paving project, you know, now is the time to do it because otherwise, like I said, we could potentially just mill off 2 inches, put 2 inches back down. Without it, we're going to probably be going back down to what we're at now, the sub base, and starting over again. So the other thing is, it was decided that we're going to be doing angled parking out in the main parking lot area. So the spaces are going to be a little wider because of that angled parking, and it's going to save us on some pavement costs. So that negative 16,000 number you see is savings because of those angled parking. It's leaving us with less asphalt we need to put down, therefore saving us money. And then we have a contingency in there just in case anything additional would come up. You know, at this point, we are 100% hopeful there would be nothing additional because we're addressing the drainage, we're addressing the base problem, and we should be good to go from there. At this point, then, the total ask for the congregation tonight is we're looking for that $115,000 additional to the current parking lot project that we already had approved. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Why are we doing this fifth parking lot, the south one on this side? I don't, not now because the parking lot is closed, but there's never usually anybody parking in there. We're plowing it, nobody drives in there. Why are we keeping that right now?
Sure. So the question was, why are we doing that last section of parking in front of the garage? Really, you know, with the angle parking, we are losing some spaces because of that angle. So right now, out in the parking lot, everything is straight. You know, you pull in and you're 90 degree to the medians. With that angle, we are losing some spaces. So that's why we definitely need to keep that because, you know, when it becomes, you know, obviously not now is a huge issue, but you think Easter, you think Christmas, big events like that, we're going to be really tight for parking without that last section. So it may get utilized a little more once the angle parking happens.
There's plenty of room for like parallel parking on the side here. There's plenty of room to go there for extra parking, but with all the snow plowing costs and the salting costs of that year after year, and nobody's using it on a weekly basis, with now spreading our services farther apart, there should be no problem with parking.
Yeah, you know, and you know, Our plan is we want to keep as much parking because, you know, obviously the hope is that our attendance for the services weekly picks up. You know, so we do want to get to that point. We're hopeful to get back to that point of having more people, that we will need that parking. You know, and the problem is if we do lose that parking now, if we'd ever want to add it back in the future, we're going to look at a substantial cost again. Because so what would have to happen is we'd take all that out. Now we have to do landscaping, regrade that whole area, put grass back. Okay, now we want it back, dig it all out, basin again. You know, so we're kind of, you know, hurting ourselves if we would take that out. And so that's why we're keeping it in the project.
Well, would the council consider telling the snow plowing company to stop plowing that and salting that every winter?
I only have them plow it during services during the week. They're not supposed to be. If they are.
Why are they even plowing it for the weekend though? Because nobody parks there. Nobody goes there.
Well, the driveway, you know, from behind here goes through there. So they do need to plow a little bit. Yep, and we'll monitor it. So, you know, with that feedback, what we'll do is we'll talk to the snow plowing contractor for that as well. Yes, sir. Yep. Yep. Yes, sir. Yep, so that was just brought up. We also have code requirements. So for the size of the building, we're restricted by code that we have to have X number of parking spots out there as well. So that's the other reason we have to keep that parking lot, to maintain our code requirements for the size of the building, to have the right amount of parking in the parking lot.
The other thing you need to remember is that before COVID, that church parking lot was full. Almost at every service. At 10:45 to 9:15, you know, instead of 45, maybe not so much. But those two services, they were averaging 450, sometimes 500 people.
Yep, yeah, so it was just mentioned.
After COVID, people, you know, haven't returned completely yet, and you can only pray that they do.
All right, so yeah, it was just mentioned that, you know, prior to COVID, we obviously had more attendance and there was parking happening out there as well. Yes, sir.
Once the project starts, how long for completion?
So we talked with Wagner, we talked with Northeast. They're hopeful in about a 3 to 4 week total completion time. Obviously, that's weather dependent. You know, so as soon as we get approval, they've looked at their schedules and they can pencil us in. They've kind of penciled us in already, but obviously we need approval from the congregation to do that. So we're looking at about a 3 to 4 week, you know, time frame on that. Again, weather dependent. So if the drainage happens and then we get weather, obviously they can't pave until the site's dry enough again to do that. So, which again, with the drainage done, it would be pretty quick because the water will be shedding off like it needs to. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we are looking for. So this would be the total then of the project. So what we currently have approved is that $508,280. With the new $115 we're asking for, then we're going to be up to that $623,280, and that includes a $35,418 contingency. That number includes the contingency from the first part of the project that's already approved, and then our additional contingency gets us up to that $35,000 mark. Questions, comments?
Yeah, you're going to take some of that asphalt from 4, 5 to put it in?
Into the low area you're talking? So they will, some of the material that's getting excavated where the drainage has to happen in the swales, they are taking, so we don't have to haul new in, and they're going to bring it to that north lot to build up that lot so it drains properly, so we don't have to incur additional new material costs. There will be a little bit, but because we're going to use what we have on site, it's going to help defer a lot of that additional cost there would be if we had to haul all new material in. Correct, yep. Questions, comments?
All right, well, thank you, Chad. I appreciate that. And appreciate your input, Eric. And, sorry, Craig. Drawing a blank. Sorry, Craig. So if there are no further questions, we'll be looking for a motion to approve the proposed new total of the project of 620. Oh, a question?
I have a question. Because of the increased costs, does that mean that we still have sufficient funds in that new building fund, or do we have to do some borrowing?
No, we do have enough in the building fund, between the building fund and the parking lot fund, to cover the entire cost, which is a very huge blessing. I think there are a lot of churches that would be going to the bank. We are very, very fortunate that we have the funds to cover it.
Move to approve the new projected cost.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. We have a second. We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I know these aren't always fun conversations when we're talking about dollars and that side. I said thanks to Chad for doing a great job. Eric and Craig, I think we want to have a special thanks to them because they've done everything that we could do to help us out of here. And I know that some people might say that's just good customer service, but knowing that this is probably in the busiest time of their year and how tight their schedules fit together and they've been willing to do it, I really appreciate everything you guys did. So thank you. We'd also like to thank Rick Rareborn, who has provided all kinds of input and history and throughout the entire project. So he's not here tonight, but yeah. We have one item that is not on the agenda. We're going to pass it over to Pastor Kyle.
So, one item to announce. Director of Children and Family Ministry. We have been looking to fill this position now for over a year. And we had, if you remember at the last meeting, if you look back in your meeting minutes, we had extended a call to a young lady by the name of Cassidy Halesso. Cassidy, if you were in that meeting, you heard she was in kind of a difficult situation. We had extended a call to her. She did not come to visit, and she has decided to go in a completely different career direction. So we went back to the drawing board. We received I reached out to the district office. We received a list of 5 candidates from the district office. Stephanie's shaking her head here. None of them were great fits. So, what also happened is we had one of our team members who was up at Camp Luther in Three Lakes, Wisconsin. And she happened to run into a young lady who is finishing up her youth ministry and theology degree at Concordia this December. So she has not graduated yet. She has 2 online classes left to take. It just so happens to be that she is recently married. She got married at the end of July. And her husband has gotten a job at Millport Sigma in Sheboygan. And so they are moving into the area. So we quickly, because she also had another job offer for a daycare position, type position, we quickly put together an interview with her. The team loved her. She was a great fit. She's youthful, brings a lot of energy. Thoughtful. I can remember at one point in the conversation, we asked her a question. I forget what the question was, but she just said, "That's a good question." And she paused for a second and gave her answer. Thoughtful, deliberate, very kind, sweet young girl. And so she is not a called worker at this point. So, you gotta make that distinction. If she were to graduate, we would be calling and would be asking for you all to extend a call to her. Because she is not graduated yet, she is considered a contract worker, I guess is the right term for it. A new hire. So, once she graduates in December, we will then be coming back to you to look to extend her a call. But she is all came in today, finished up new hire paperwork, and she will be starting this next week, Monday, in that position. Right now, we are looking at an installation date. We are still in talks about doing when that'll happen. Looks like the end of the month, the last weekend in August. And so I encourage you all, please give a warm welcome to her. She'll be at all the services that weekend as we welcome her into St. Paul's church family. So, Savannah Henn is her name. Yes, sorry.
So she's just considered a new hire as of December when she graduates? Is that when we can lose her then till fall?
Correct. So once she graduates, she'll then be considered what is a called worker. So we will come back to you and then be looking to extend her a call, move her into that called position.
But other places could do the same, but she could leave.
That is, yes. It's a potential. We're not looking that way. She's going to be here a long time. That's the hope. Any questions on that? Comments, concerns? Yes. What was that?
She's not eligible for a call.
Yeah, so she hasn't graduated yet. So,
We're just going to hire her. She's not eligible. Once she's eligible, we'll call her.
yeah. Until she's eligible, she will not be a called worker at this point, correct? She will be considered an employee of the church. She will be the director of children and family ministry, just like Jeff Diener was, who was not a called employee, okay? He did not go through the LCMS system. So once she completes that, then we can go back to that. Correct. It's, yes.
So I think what Ben was getting at is, can we make a motion now to pre-approve that when she becomes eligible, the call will be made, rather than creating another special meeting in November or December?
Well, we could.
Preventing us from doing that, I think, is where the spirit of the question was.
Yeah, I understand the spirit of the question. I don't know because she is not call eligible at this point, I don't know that you can pre-approve something like that from an LCMS standpoint. She has not completed her coursework to be eligible for a call.
I just concur with Pastor Kyle. She's not eligible for a call, so we can't do that until she's eligible. Once she graduates and is declared eligible, then we can do that, but we can't take action on it when she's not eligible.
Any other questions? Congregation comments and concerns is next on the agenda. Yes. Yes.
Okay, when I think this meeting should be called an emergency meeting, so we wouldn't have to waste 2 weeks to use our property. That I think it should be okayed that, or put it in the bylaws, that if you have an emergency, we can call a meeting within a week.
I am not a bylaw expert or a constitutional committee member or really know anything about that process, other than right now, we have to follow what's in our current bylaws.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we can look into that and see if we can make a proposal or an amendment to our bylaws to
Right.
include something like that.
That's what I'm asking for.
Yes. I don't have an answer for you if we can do that, though, at this point.
No. So, okay. Also, Rick Rayborn has put in thousands of hours in this parking lot. And I think he should be compensated for all the dollars we have saved for that man spending all his time over here. Using his own tools, his own equipment, everything.
The council.
I just had to put my 2 cents in.
Yes, thank you. The council has talked about this, of what is the proper way to thank Rick, and we have talked it amongst ourselves, and we'll continue to talk about what is the appropriate way to thank Rick for his time, his efforts, the countless dollars he's put into his tractor as he's hauled trees away, as he's cut holes wherever they need to be done, as he's done rewiring, or not rewiring, but checking electrical and all these different things. He has been all over this property all summer. And so we have well aware of the hours and the time that he has spent, and we will continue to figure out what is the appropriate way to thank him. But yes, there will be something, I'm sure. What was that? Sharon said if we have a picture of Rick, we should send her it. So. He has lived over here for the last couple of months, just about. And we're very thankful for all the time and effort he has put in. Yes? Yeah, a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm.
Can't we use a call system to tell people that something like that is moved this summer?
That's a very good idea. Yes. Thank you for that. It's not something that would cross our mind. I know we put it out on social media. I know it was in the bulletin that it was changed or postponed. Correct. But that's a very good idea. Thank you.
Anything else? Any other comments or concerns?
Yes.
In regard to parking out during construction, are we going to have some kind of signage or let people know how to park and where to park?
So we will be, the only driveway that will be open is the one that just got paved. So there will be a sign there that says enter and exit only. The one that was over there will be moved over here. And then this whole section will be blocked with cones. So our plan is to open up all of the doors. It will be tight, and we encourage carpooling to church. And hopefully the project will go quickly, right, Eric?
Yes. There again, we're well aware that it's going to be a flow adjustment as carpool, as the parking lot is under construction. So we're aware. Unfortunately, there's, correct. But, luckily, if we can get this project done in the manner that they're proposing, it's not like we're going to be in the dead of winter where it's dark out at 4:30 at night, and you're not going to have the light issue. So luckily for Wednesday nights with kids moving around this place, you should still have some light out. Obviously, we do have lighting across the building in the different parking lots as well. That'll help. So it is going to be a little bit of a mess for a while, unfortunately. And we'll have directions and things like that laid out to help people as well.
I just want to say a word of thanks to Nicole now that it sounds like we have a new director of children's ministry coming in. She's been doing double duty for the last year, and she's really been working hard and doing a great job. Thank you so much. And I don't know about you folks, but Judy and I talk about this every Sunday as we're heading home or during the day. Our pastors have been doing such a great job with their sermons, haven't they? I love this sermon series that they just wrapped up. So thank you guys for the great job you've been doing.
Thank you. Okay, final call for comments, concerns. Okay, hearing none. One quick thank you to the one thing that didn't get brought up tonight on this is that because of this project and the timing, we've asked Lori Wilson to move trash and treasure. So we want to thank you for your flexibility as well, Lori. Okay, we'll now be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Who was that? Jerry Wilson.
Jerry, we have a second? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you, everyone for coming tonight. I thought we had a lot of great questions, and we appreciate your input on the project. Yep, sorry. Pastor Rob looks like he's waiting to have a closing prayer.
Let's bow our heads for a word of prayer. Dear Lord, I just want to thank you for everybody here tonight, for our whole congregation, and for our church council and all the work that they have put into this. And thank you, Lord, for providing for us options, even though it didn't go as planned. You're still taking care of us, and you're still going to get this project done, and we thank you so much for that. God, we also thank you for bringing Savannah to us. It's been a long wait, God, and you just lined things up just right, and you brought her to us, and we're so grateful for that as well. I pray that you please continue to be here and work through us to spread your gospel message, that everybody here and in our community might know that you are the God who came to earth as Jesus and gave your life on the cross and rose from the dead so that we could be with you eternally. Praise you, God. Amen.